Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me on today's webinar. My name's Daniel Marsh. I'm one of the UK sales engineer for here at Zyxel UK. I primarily cover the northern sector. So today we are going to be looking at Nebula Flex and how to set up a general network. Now there will be a questions and answer section at the end, so feel free to post your questions on the tab at the side of your screen, and I will come to them at the end and hopefully answer all the questions that are asked of me. So Nebula Flex and how to set up your network. First, we're going to discuss what is Nebula Flex. So Nebula Flex is a way of integrating switches which you might already have out there with our Nebula centralized management platform. Basically, all you will need to do is grab the latest firmware. You can download that from our website or our FTP site, upload it to the latest version, which you should do with all of your devices when you get them before you deploy them. There's 3 simple steps that you need to do to get it working. One, you'll need to log on to the Nebula portal and create yourself an account if you don't already have one. Upgrade your devices to the latest firmware, and then register the devices. You can either do this through the app, which we're not going to be covering in today's session, or doing it via the online wizard, which is accessible through all internet browsers. So first you'll want to go to nebula.zyxel.com. You'll get presented with an option to log into the Nebula Control Center. Click at the bottom to sign up, and then it'll present you with the options to put in your email, your first and last name, what country you're in, and to confirm that you're not a robot. So simple as that, just fill in your details and then click submit. Once you submit it, you've got like 4 sections that you need to fill in. The first one will be to create an organization. Now, an organization, in essence, for MSPs and managed services would be your organization, and then the site which you will build will potentially be your customers, or if your customers have multiple sites, you could put them as an organization and then have all the head offices. So for instance, with Zyxel, we'll have Zyxel as the organization, and then underneath that we'll have multiple sites such as the UK, Benelux, Finland, etc. So just fill out them specific pieces of information that you require and then click next. On the next section, you'll then be asked to add your devices to Nebula. Now, on the box and the unit themselves, it will provide you both a MAC address and a serial number. So these are the 2 bits of information that you need to register a device. So once you've done that and filled it in, you'll click on the add button. That will then add it. As you can see, for this particular demonstration, I'm going to be using a GS1920 24HP. So that's the PoE version of the 1920. If you want to add multiple devices at the same time, you can do that from the screen. So again, populate the MAC address and the serial number, and then click add. And as you can see, you can carry on building them up. So if you've got 10 devices, you can register them all at the same time. If you have put a device on there that you don't want to register, you can just click on the little bin button, and that will remove it so that you can add a different device. And then once you're happy with the devices that you want to register and add onto the Nebula portal, you then click next. So the 3rd section is basically setting up your wireless settings. So when you populate this, this will all go into the Nebula portal, and once the devices have been registered and you've gone to the dashboard and finished the wizard, it will then download all the necessary information based on what you put in here. So it'll ask you for a Wi-Fi name. So that's the what's called the SSID. This is what's broadcasted when you're looking on your devices for a wireless network. It'll ask you for a pre-shared key, so a password to make sure that it's secure, and any sort of VLAN requirements as well. So you populate them and then click next. And the next section will come up with a guest Wi-Fi. So most typical businesses will have some form of guest Wi-Fi capability. So you would put in here, again, the wireless name and the password. And then on this particular side, you've got the option to do whether or not you want to do a captive portal. So this is where when somebody logs on, it will provide them with the terms and conditions of using the internet, and also the option whether or not you want to be able to use a Facebook account to join their network. It does support Facebook Wi-Fi as well, so you can redirect them directly to your customer's Facebook page so that they can check in to further increase social awareness in regards to the establishment. So the VLAN that you want to specify on this wants to be something different to the one specified on the first screen, because the whole point about the guest network is that it is going to be separate to your corporate network. So for this example, I've used a VLAN at 99, but you can use anything that you want. So if you do already have a VLAN infrastructure in place, you can just use what you've been using in the past. So once you're happy with all them settings, you can then click Next and move on to the next section. So the next section would be to just confirm all the details, make sure you're happy with it. If you are happy with the amount of devices that have been registered, so you can see the organization, the site, how many Nebula devices I've registered, and then the wireless details for both the corporate as well as the guest Wi-Fi. So once you're happy with that, if you click on the Go to Nebula dashboard, this will then take you to the Nebula Control Center. And here's a picture of what it looks like after the devices have been added. And as you can see on this particular section here, you have the access point and the switch. It'll show you how many you have in total, and it'll show you how many are currently online. So obviously the more you add, the more it will show. If there's any problem with network connectivity, for instance, one switch isn't online or something like that, you'll see that the total count could be 2, but the online would only be 1, suggesting that one of the switches are not online. Now on the switches themselves, there is a little cloud LED that will go orange if it's not connected to Nebula, so that indicates that it's got no network connectivity. And this could be a host of things in regards to implementation, and usually a very quick fix. So just to go through this screen a little bit more, at the top you have the organization, and then underneath that you have the site. So I've named mine HQ. But if you drop down that menu, you can actually select multiple sites depending on how many you create and things like that. And then you've also got a quite nice search function in the top right hand corner, in which you can actually look up usernames, and you can also look up your access points and your switches based on serial number, or you could do it via MAC address. The bigger your network gets, sometimes it's quite difficult to manage and find things. So Nebula is a very user-friendly platform in which you can actually find everything you need pretty much from the dashboard. One of the important things to also note is the PoE power. Now this actually shows the PoE budget of your switch that you've installed. So if you install more switches, your budget goes up, and it will show you a percentage of what's consumed. So if you're powering an access point from a switch, then it will show you the draw that that access point has. And as you add more access points, that will calculate based on its current usage. Okay, pretty much once you've done that, that network is up and running. The switch will carry multiple VLANs by default. So it will carry both your corporate and your guest. And if you add any more, it will just carry them across. Obviously, the gateway that you have also needs to be configured to allow that. Otherwise, you could run into some issues. But typically speaking, Nebula is quite aware of itself and what the settings are, so it knows how to carry everything on there. So that is how you set up a simple network within Nebula. Now, one of the good things about Nebula Flex is it's very flexible. You don't have to use it in a cloud managed mode. You can use it in a standalone mode. So there is a certain procedure that you need to take to actually remove it from the Nebula Control Center, which is what I'm also going to go through right now. So it's 3 steps to get it online, and it's pretty much 1 step or about 3 steps to get it offline again. So you'll unregister the device. Nebula will then send a reset command to that specific device. So it will actually reset it, it will reboot, and then when it reboots, it's in standalone mode, as it would have been when you took it out of the box originally. Then you would need to physically plug into it, log on to the device, and then manually change the settings. Or if you're using one of our on-premise controllers like a VPN or a USG series, then you can onboard it onto there instead if an on-premise controller is more what you're looking for. So how do we do this? I've only done it for the access point on this one, but the steps are exactly the same to remove the switch as well. So for this example, if you click on access point at the top or AP at the top, and then underneath that, there's an option access point. You click on that and it will take you to this screen. This screen will show you a list of all your access points that have been assigned to this site. It will provide you the status. So green obviously means it's online, red is offline, and yellow is an alert of some sort. So whether or not it's a firmware out of date, whether or not there's any particular issues with the access point, cable fault, etc. You've got the name, which by default will show you the MAC address. However, you can change this to make it a bit more user-friendly. So you can put in locations, floors, and things like that, so you can easily identify it. It'll show you what the local IP address of the unit is. It will also show you the public IP address, so what internet line it's plugged into, where the management is coming from. You'll see what model it is. It picks this information up by default using the serial number and MAC address when you first register it. And then you can put any specific tagging on it as well to be able to group them together so that you can make changes to a group of access points and not others. So what you would do is you would then select the access point you need it to remove from the Nebula platform. You will then click on the Move button at the top. This option is used not only to remove it from the site, but also move it to a different site. So for this instance, we're going to remove it from the site. So once you click Remove, the access point is then removed off there. Now, this doesn't automatically unregister it. This just removes it from this particular site. You can then allocate it to a different site if you really want to. The next step that you will need to do is go to the organization. And then underneath there is an option inventory. So this is an inventory of all your devices across all of your organization. This is multiple sites, etc. So you will see on there, I have quite a few different devices, some of which are located at home. So I've obviously labeled them correctly on the site, and you will see that they're all online. Now, the NWA 1302 AC access point that we're in the process of removing, you will see is no longer currently assigned to a site because we've just removed it. If it is removed, if it is still allocated to a site, you cannot unregister it. So it does throw up a warning and advise you that you can't remove it. It's still attached to a site, which is safeguarding because at least it means that you don't remove the wrong access point from a live site and ultimately needing to onboard it again, which could cause downtime and a bit of disruption for your customer. So the procedure would be to tick the access point that doesn't have a site and the one that you want to remove. Click on the Unregister button located at the top. And then at that point, it is unregistered. Now, as I say, Nebula at this point will then send a reset command to the access point because it's still connected to the internet, and that will then initiate a reboot. And once it reboots, it'll reboot with all its factory default settings as it was when you originally got it out of the box. So if you do want to start using it in standalone mode, or if you want to start using it with an on-premise controller, you will then go through the next procedures to configure it to your liking. So that is how you set up a network with Nebula and how you unregister a device if you feel that Nebula isn't for you or for your customer. And just to alliterate a bit, that the platform is free, so there are a professional pack option in which you can get, which we can go through in a bit more detail offline if that's something that you're interested in looking into. There are also previous webinars which will show the differences between the free version and the professional pack version as well. So let's just have a look at the Nebula Flex portfolio. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. You will obtain a copy of all the slides, so you will be able to look at these at your own leisure. And if you've, as I say, if you've got any questions, anything like that, my contact details are at the end of this webinar, and I'm always happy to sort of help run one-on-one demonstrations of the platform as well, and to answer any more of the technical questions that you might be struggling to get an answer with. So the two switches that we've got, which are Nebula Flex switches, are the GS1920 and the XGS1930. So the GS1920 are our gigabit switches. They come in an 8 HP, a 24 and a 40A, either PoE or non-PoE versions. The largest PoE budget we've got is 375 watts, and that's on both the XGS and the GS as well. and they also support typical protocols you would find in most industries nowadays, such as spanning tree, LACP, which is link aggregation, so being able to team the ports up to create a resilient network and to also improve performance and throughput. And it also supports what's called IGMP as well. So this is for IP televisions that you would see in the hospitality environment. It's all been trialed and tested and works really well, and it does provide you some really good statistics on the Nebula platform as well for the IP television side of things. So what's different is about the XGS 1930, they are 10 gig uplink switches. So rather than having a gig uplink and towards the right hand side of the switch, you'll be presented with 4 SFP plus modules. So you'll buy an additional module and you'll have a fiber cable going from one switch to another switch to create that 10 gig backbone. It always helps when you've got really high traffic networks in which you want to improve performance between the switches. So if you have a look, they are the current switches that we support with Nebula Flex. They can all be done in standalone or managed by Nebula, and it's an optional extra whether or not you want to go for the NCC Pro Pack, which is what I've mentioned about being the like the annual or the perpetual subscription license. So just to also something interesting, so this is a bit of a roadmap to where we're going with Nebula and some of our switches moving forward towards the end of the year and beginning of next year. So you can see that in September, so Q4 of 2019, we're going to be bringing our XS3828 onto the Nebula platform. So if you've got any of these out in deployment already, it will be a case of when available, download the firmware version, upgrade it, go through a similar sort of procedure to what I've just shown you, and then it will be available just like the other switch was. So this actually has 8 combo ports, which are either 10 gigabit Ethernet ports or SFP plus ports, so they're fiber ports again. You get 16 SFP plus ports, which again are modules and require a fiber medium connector. And as I say, they'll be fully supported by Nebula Flex moving forward as well. So a couple more switches that we've got, the XS1930. So we've got a 10 and a 12 HP of them coming out first quarter of 2020. And the reason that I'm putting these into the slides is it's quite important to understand that these particular switches are going to be a necessity for the new Wi-Fi 6 or the wireless AX access points, which are coming out again towards the end of this year, beginning of next year. In order to be able to utilize all of the features, which has a theoretical wireless transfer rate of 9.6 gig, you will be required to use the multi-gig ports in order to utilize all of this, because if you've got a 1 gig port in the bottom of an access point and you're trying to transfer 9.6 gig, it's not going to work. There's not going to be enough capacity there. So it's something to bear in mind that if you are looking to spec up Wi-Fi 6 or the AX access points in the future, you need to start looking into the multi-gigabit switches. We do have some available already, and we're bringing out more, obviously, to give us a bit more variety for our customers in regards to the switch variation for the access points. So they'll come with like the multi-gig ports, which again, they can transfer over a typical copper cable, 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig. They'll come with 2 SFP plus ports, which will primarily be used for the uplink ports back to the core network. And the 1930 also has an internal PSU as well as the 12 HP as well. So you haven't got an external like adapter which has to be fitted into the cabinet. The 12 HP, now this is a PoE switch, so this is what you'll be using to power your access points. It'll come with 8 Ultra PoE. So Ultra PoE is 802.2 BT standard and will provide 60 watt per port. So it's the next generation of PoE for the higher classification devices, especially for the AX access point. It'll come with 2 multi-gigabit ports on it as well and 2 SFP plus ports. Again, with an internal PSU, and will be fully Nebula Flex managed, which means you can either run it standalone or you'll also be able to run it on the Nebula platform. For any of you that might have been on my webinar last week, I introduced 2 weeks ago, sorry, I introduced the new CCTV switch, so the GS 1300 series. That consists of two models, an unmanaged and a managed version. GS 1300 is an unmanaged CCTV switch, and the GS 1350 is a managed CCTV switch. They have some really good benefits for the CCTV vertical. So I suggest, if you didn't watch my webinar 2 weeks ago, if you just Google Zyxel Webinar UK, you'll be able to find a list of all our upcoming webinars, as well as any on-demand ones and previous ones which I've done. So that's going to be Nebula Flex supported. So that switch is already out, but it will be Nebula Flex supported in the Q1 of 2020. And then we've got the GS 2220 series. Now this will be out in the first half of 2020, and that will come in a 10 and a 10 HP, a 24 and a 48 of PoE and non-PoE variations. So this again is another switch which is going to be supported on the Nebula Flex platform, on the Nebula platform. So as you can see, we're really starting to drive the cloud management. It's a very favorable sort of platform. People like it. It's very easy to use, and it's very versatile in what it can do. So you can provide multiple administrators to the site. So when it comes to deploying the network, you've got all the information you need, and with the app, with the mobile app, and being able to use the QR codes to onboard it, it makes installations a dream. So we're going to go just sort of flick through the access points. So again, you are going to receive a copy of the slide deck, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. We've got about 12 access points currently supported by Nebula. We will have the AX ones joining as well soon. So again, the portfolio for Nebula is just growing. So we do have some 802.11ac access points, so such as the 1123ac V2, the 1123ac Pro. And then the 1123ac HD is the Wave 2 technology, so it has higher performance than the previous two, and will help with congested networks and sort of high speed required wireless areas. You've got the 1302ac. Now this is the one which I used in my demonstration today. This is quite good for the hospitality market because it does have a little mini switch on the bottom of it, so you can plug in a smart TV, and it also does PoE pass-through of around 7 watts as well, so you'll be able to power like a small phone. So if you think about it, for a hotel, it'll be quite good because you'll have a smart TV plugged directly into the access point, and you will also have a cable going to a VoIP phone, which then can contact reception and dial an outside line as well. So that access point is really nice. The build quality of it's fantastic. I've been trialing it, and I'm absolutely blown away with the performance of it. So some of the ones that have recently joined the portfolio are the WAC 6000 series. So some of these, as you can see, are 2x2 antennas, providing you a speed of 1.7 gigabits per second. And we've also got a Wave 2 variation as well, so the 5123AC HD. And then we've got the WAC 6502D-S. Now this contains a smart antenna technology, which again, I've done webinars on the smart antenna technology, and it proves to be really successful in high congested areas where wireless user experience has been suffering in the past. If a smart antenna can't fix it, then it can't be fixed because there's too much interference. But some of the performance we've had out there, and with some of our bench testing in Taiwan HQ, has been absolutely amazing against some of the competitors. So moving to the portfolio. So the first two are similar sort of specifications to the previous one. One of them's a Wave 2 with Bluetooth beaconing in it. But the ones that stand out aside here are the WAC 6552D-S and the 6553D-E. Now these are both outdoor graded access points. The 6552D-S has a built-in smart antenna, so it doesn't have any external antennas. So you could get they come with a pole mounting kit as well, so you could actually pole mount 4 of them on a pole, say for instance a caravan park or something like that, and you could provide external Wi-Fi connectivity. Or in them unique circumstances where you're trying to get internet over to potentially a port cabin at the end of the field, you can use this and theoretically get over 1 mile connectivity on sort of 5 gigahertz band, maybe a little bit further on 2.4 gigahertz band. Just bear in mind, obviously, the interference if there's a lot of wireless noise around the area. The 6553D-E actually requires external antennas, which can be purchased alongside them as an additional accessory. So they can be omnidirectional, and again, they primarily can be fitted into caravan parks. I've known them to go into stadiums and things like that to provide all the people with wireless, because this day and age everybody wants to Snapchat, Instagram and Facebook the locations with pictures, videos. So these sort of access points help deliver that and improve the social awareness of the establishment that they're actually in. So the access points that we've got are listed here, so you can see which ones are Nebula Flex and Nebula Flex Pro and what sort of benefits you get for the NTC Pro Pack. So some of them will come with a 1-year Pro Pack with an additional 2-year on a promo, and then the newest ones, which are the WAC 6000 series, they come with a 1-year standard, and they have only been Nebula Flex enabled since around the 1st of July. So just moving forward, just to give you a little bit of heads up, so towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, these are our 5 new access points which have been announced that are coming out, which are the WACs. So these are the AX, or what people are calling Wi-Fi 6. I've got very limited information on this currently, but you can see that they do have ports on it for 2.5 gigahertz and 2.5 gigabit Ethernet and 5 gigabit Ethernet. Again, that's because theoretically they can actually transfer up to like 9.6 gig depending what model you're getting. So the first two, so the NWA 1123AX and the 1123AX Plus, are going to be aimed towards sort of e-tail focused. But then when it comes to like AVARs and our MSP, you've got the WAC 510D, the 610D, and the 65OS. So they will all be available, as I say, towards the end of this year, beginning of next year. And remember, you need a multi-gig switch in order to take benefit of all the features that the AX access point do deliver. So that really concludes today's webinar on how to set up a Nebula Flex network. It is a very basic one, and there will be more coming out in the future to show you different areas. So if you've got any suggestions on content that you would like to see, you can always either drop me an email. My email's on the next slide, or email sales@zyxel.co.uk. We do take our customers' feedback very seriously, and if it is a case that you're looking for certain areas that you want to be shown how to configure it, then I'm more than happy to tailor a webinar to do this, or even provide a one-on-one demonstration session for either you or some colleagues, just to enhance your knowledge in that space. So before we go to the questions and answer section, I just wanted to make you aware of a current promo we're running. So for our GS 1920 and our XGS 1930 range, we are actually offering a free access point with every purchase. So for the GS 1920, you'll get a free NWA 1123 AC V2. And for an XGS 1930, you'll get a free NWA 1123 AC Pro. At the bottom, you'll see what the switch part codes are currently. So this is for a switch on its own outside of the promo. If you want to look at getting the bundle, getting the free access point with the switch, then you can take a note of this this bundle code to quote, speak to your distributor, and they'll be able to provide your pricing on that. And again, you get a free access point with it. So if you're not currently using our access point, but you do use our switches, I would suggest going for the bundle, getting a free access point, and it'll allow you to test it, put it into a customer premise, see what they think of it. But it's a very good promo. As I say, speak to your distributors. The promo is valid from the 5th of September to the 30th of September, so it is getting to the point where it will end. But again, speak to your distributor, get some price on it, and hopefully you'll enjoy the benefits that the access point and the switch bundle will give you. So just having a quick look at one of our questions. So Brian is coming and asked me if the NWA 5123 AC will be Nebula Cloud compatible. Now, I do not believe that one is going to be Cloud Nebula compatible. There are access points on there which are around the same sort of price point and the same sort of performance which will offer you it. I'm just wondering if maybe it's because you've got the NWA 5123 ACs already out there, whether or not that's a question in regards to moving them off an standalone version to a cloud version. So unfortunately, at this stage, I'm not aware of that joining the Nebula platform. I think it does come down to the chipset that they've used to manufacture them, which is why we brought out the V2 on the 1123. But I will beg the question in regards to the 5123, Brian. I've got your contact details anyway. I'll be able to follow that up and just drop you a quick email and let you know if it is looking to join the Nebula platform. So thank you for that one. So I'll keep the webinar open for a few more minutes. So if you do have any questions, just fire them across to me. I'll just provide you my contact details. So if you have forgotten any question or anything like that, that is my email address in which you can contact me. I am relatively responsive as well. So if you do email me, you do get an email back pretty quickly. Obviously, sometimes I might be in training or on site visits, in which case you'll just have to wait until I get back to you. But I will either provide it to a colleague to answer your question or deal with it directly myself in a nice, timely manner. So again, I'll leave it open for a few more minutes. So any questions, just feel free to post them. Right, okay, so there doesn't appear to be any more questions. So again, take a note of my email address just in case something does crop up. And remember, the bundle that we've got out for this month, I really suggest you take benefit of that. As I say, it's a very attractive bundle and it will hopefully allow your customers to explore the Zyxel wireless range and what it can actually offer. So I would just like to thank you all today for joining me on today's webinar. As I say, if you've got any questions, if you need any sort of technical pre-sales advice on how to spec up a particular project you might be looking for, then feel free to get in contact with me. I'm more than happy to help. I'm also willing to go on site, meet your end users and discuss the Zyxel solution that potentially you've already proposed to them. So again, we're here as a resource for you to make sure that we can help grow your business and work as a partnership in order to grow both ourselves and yourselves further into the market. So thank you again for your time. And remember, we run webinars every 2 weeks. So I'm hoping to see you all on the next one. And there'll be information going out as to what that's aimed towards within the next few days. So thank you ever so much, and you have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.